few little bits that have come up.
Yeah, I don't mind going first.
Yeah?
I think.
Would you mind holding a look on
Oh,
my
my.
Is that right? Oh, thank you. Just make it feel like we're on TV and that.
Okay. That's cool. So, yeah, maybe, okay, so I'll just speak on what I've spoken about. But yeah, some of the rocks in my sack. One of the main ones actually just come from being a woman, so just hormones. Maybe the women in here might understand, like, just there's some times of the, the month that I've just got a lot of energy and everything like that, but then when it gets to a specific time of the month, that brain fog kicks in, decreased energy, confusion, and that really impacts me in work. It impacts me with, day to day, or just communicating with people. Sometimes I just kind of want to go in that isolation mode, or just even business as well. So just literally tackling specific things can just be that much harder, and it's just learning how to still move through it. It's just something that, I guess in the grand scheme of things can't be changed, but then also thinking about what things can make that a bit better, whether that's, I don't know, exercise or this and that, to just like well-being wise, tapping into the well-being, tapping into good sleep, tapping into whatever I need to kind of make that better. But I think that is a constant rock, but it's just something I can't really, Another thing I would say as well is, what is the right thing to do next in regards to business, and just kind of moving through that. I think this happens to everyone, but myself personally, being neurodiverse as well, I have so many thoughts that come into my mind consistently, and I just have a list of things that I'm like, okay, what is the right step? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I think that whole perfectionist thing comes in, and I'm like, oh, am I taking the right step or not? But it can delay you when you're thinking about being perfect, and it's actually, just choose something and go for it, and fail at it, and that's okay. The failing is the learning, and it's moving through that. So I think that's also a bit of a rock for me, because sometimes there's just so many different choices, and having that perfectionism can just delay me. And I think it's a spoon that I could take away. It's just a mind's choice. It's just being kind to yourself and saying, do it anyway. You're going to get through the day. You're going to get an outcome. You're going to learn from it, and just keep going. I've got more things, but I'll just stop there.
No, that's amazing. Is there anything you wanted to add?
I think you covered it.
Yeah. Okay.
Go on.
Yeah. But you mentioned about the construct.
Yeah.
I think that was really important.
So first of all, I identified with a lot of what we discussed. I actually went really kind of big and outer, because I think something that I'm finding really heavy at the moment is kind of the structure around us and society around us. Very recently, you may have all heard about Professor Arday passing away, and we're sort of talking about how it honestly feels a lot like 2020 again, where things are happening that are kind of outside of your control, but very intimately impact you. So the lack of control and the lack of sort of understanding of people who might not see why humanity is a real thing just feels very heavy. And sort of carrying that alongside, things like dealing with perfectionism and dealing with hormonal body changes, at least those sort of things, it feels like you could have some sort of control over, and you could try and make positive changes. But then the things that are kind of outside, people who seem to be making decisions about how people feel about me, what people think about me, the media being one aspect, the government being another aspect, you know, like these are the things that kind of just kind of weigh on me. And yeah, I don't know, I think one of the things we sort of discussed was having like a community of people around you that understand, and you can actually talk about these things definitely helps. Ideally, I would like to just overthrow the government and the media and get rid of all of them and just build a whole new system. So if we could do that, that would be cool.
Yeah. We do have like 90 minutes left. So
Yeah, so we could do that, right? So yeah, we kind of did like internal stuff, but then sort of big structural stuff as well.
Something I just wanted to, in fact, actually, let's get through it and then I'll respond to as many of these as I can. Next group, let's say one of you two. Yeah.
Alright, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the two things that I was focused on was, I mean, they're both around relationships, I think business and personal. The business relationships is just my business partner and I have been working together for 10 years, and now we're kind of transitioning into this new business model, and I see us pulling away in terms of there's just like a stress about the way that we're approaching the business, and I think that because we have new investors and new stakeholders, one of us wants to be a bit more conservative, and I kind of want to, we've always led with like intuition and that kind of stuff, and I feel like that's like kind of like the internal stress that I face every single day is like I feel like there needs to be a battle on every single decision, one more conservative, one more kind of just intuition based, and I feel like we've always been a little bit more intuition, risk taking based, and so now this change has been really hard for me, so it's like kind of a daily stress. The analogy I used is that I feel like we got to the business itself is quite, like, who knows if it's gonna work, you know, like we've already put ourselves out there, we're on the ledge, we've jumped, and I feel like instead of pulling the parachute, we've now like clung onto the rock and we're like trying to climb back up, and so I feel like that's like the tension that I face on a day-to-day. And then on the personal side of it is just like figuring out how to fit personal life into the business. I've always put the business first, and when I talk to people, I say my priority is like having like a romantic relationship or a partner in life and all this kind of stuff, but then I traditionally just put the business first. And then we talked about it's probably just because I'm scared of being hurt, and the business is an easy excuse, but it's definitely a rock that I have, that I carry. So I feel like those are my big rocks right now. Do you want to talk about expectations and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, we're covering some great stuff here.
I'll send you an invoice.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so. We spoke about quite a few things. I had a big list of stuff, but looking at my list, I think some of the stuff links quite deeply with work. So my number one rock is work. So if I can get rid of work, I think we'll be alright.
Yeah.
But
That's feeling.
That's what we were gonna solve. Like,
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
solved.
sure.
If you solve that rock, man.
And then the other one was elements of business. And then I thought a bit deeper about this one, and I think the other one, the one that really stuck out to me the most, the one I didn't really think about was expectations I set on myself. And I think that one was a really big rock, because then, you know, you kind of put yourself in a position where this has to work, you need to do this. You know, unless I do this, then I'm not successful. But it's like that kind of expectation you set on yourself, and we spoke about that in length, but actually, it's like a toxic. it's like a poison that I'm inflicting on myself. And I think if I was to get rid of that rock, I'd be a bit more free, a bit more relaxed about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I think that can be quite deeply linked to like African heritage, but also as well, like I think it's important to highlight that. And the other stuff I mentioned was parking tickets. That's a big rock.
Let's get practical with it.
Bills.
Yeah.
That's a big rock as well. But also some stakeholders as well. And some stakeholders they'll just drain the life out of me. I'm like, I have to be there because I'm at work. So I'm like, hey, of course I'm gonna help you. And then it's like after I'm like, oh, close the laptop. I'm like, right, let's do something else now.
Right.
So yeah, those are the things that we discussed as well.
Amazing. Oh, I'm gonna have fun with these in a second. Who would like to? Okay, cool. Perfect.
So I have sort of two themes. The first theme was internal, and that was a lot of internal stuff that are rocks. And then the second is external. But I think if I were to summarize, a lot of it is to do with self-sabotaging thoughts. And you mentioned just simply not knowing what to do, you know? And so I think what I discovered from this exercise is that I'm on a little bit of a hamster wheel, that I think when I'm not working on my business, which is a lot of time because I'm a mum and I have another job and I do other things, I feel like I should be or deeply want to be working on my business. But then very often when I am actually sitting working on my business, I'm quite easily distracted. I don't exactly know what to do. And I'm like, you know, so yeah, so there's this feeling of kind of never fully being present, never fully being doing what I am doing, and then what happens after that is a lot of guilt. So that's where the hamster wheel comes in, because it's like, okay, I feel guilty because I'm not working when I should be working, and then I feel guilty because I want to be working when I'm with my kids, and then I feel guilty because of the self-sabotaging thoughts. And then I did add at the very end, because that wasn't enough, expectations on self, which is something that I deeply relate to. As I jokingly said, I set the limit to 45, and guys, I'm 44 and a half now, so, you know, then, yeah, it's like, okay, if I turn 45 and I don't retire from hairdressing, does that mean I'm an absolute failure? You know, so, yeah, it's a...
Yeah.
Perfect. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I think I wrote that not getting lists, getting my list for the day done, just like my to-do list. Responding to urgent messages, and then like the chaos to prepare for an event. And I think all of this just ties in. The surrounding thing is like time. It feels like I'm just always running out of time. And yeah, so it could, yeah, just I feel like there's not enough time, and I now ask myself, am I a bit too over ambitious for my like personality type? Maybe because I ideally should be moving much slower, but then it just feels like these things won't get done, and I have a long list of things that I would like to achieve. So I'm just wondering, am I like just working out of my own, like, I don't know, just out, not, I'm not working with myself essentially. But yeah, I just feel like I'm always running out of time, always rushing for things. There isn't enough, like the 24 hours that we have is just not enough because there's so many more things. Then the last thing is with responding to urgent messages, I found that like having to respond to other people's, like working on other people's time. So for example, responding to an email or having to do something because it's urgent and then you have this deadline to meet. And I think it's just like, how do I give myself more time and buy myself time? And one of the things we said was, someone told me was, you know, for example, if you're going to write for something, give a window. For example, if someone wants you to do something today, tell them, can this be done tomorrow? Just because I know that I'm always rushing to try and meet by 12 noon, this should be sent and this should be ready. But ideally, like, it means then I have to push other things and stress myself just to meet that deadline. When it actually maybe doesn't need to be done, it can be done tomorrow. And so I just feel like I'm just always running out of time, and I need to figure out what to do because all these things that I need to do, they need to get done.
Drops mic. Alright, wicked. So there's a couple of ways we could approach this, but I'm also conscious of bellies. So what I want to do, are we ready to drink? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Do you want to talk us through, and then what's going to happen is while we're eating, I'm going to respond to everybody. Yeah. So over to you. What do we have?
First of all, who can tolerate spice? No one. Great.
Who can do spice?
Yeah, so it's spicy, everything's spicy. It's Nigerian food. We love spice. So starting off with, we just have like a simple creative plate with a romesco. And we have carrots, radish, and cucumbers. So just grab a small plate and scoop a bit to your plate. And then we have lettuce cups with suya steak. Steak is a bit overdone, but it's still nice. Suya is a peanut spice mix, which comes with obviously dried peanuts, garlic, ginger, a local spice called uda. And it's basically grilled meat essentially. So it could be grilled fish, grilled meat, grilled chicken, anything grilled. Grilled mushrooms, really good with grilled oyster mushrooms. But yeah, that's what we have for starters. And then our mains. Are we doing mains now also?
What time do we have?
37 past.
37. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do mains. Okay.
Because there's a lot of answers to respond to.
Okay, so for mains we have jollof rice. Who has not heard of jollof rice? So everyone has heard of
Amazing.
jollof rice.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm very happy about that. So jollof rice, we have that very classic Nigerian rice dish, and then we have some chicken, Cameroon pepper chicken, which is like a very smoky, very similar to like chipotle, lovely chicken, and then we have a tomato corn salad, which is just very classic.
Wonderful.
And then for dessert, we have a Swiss roll. It's in the fridge. I'm just letting that sit, but we can eat that at the very end, yeah?
Cool, perfect.
Yeah, the Swiss roll is raspberry and moringa cream. It's dairy free anyways, but the moringa is very similar to matcha. Not similar, it's its own plant, but it's been ground into a powder, and I apply that the same way you do with matcha. So, yeah. Enjoy, guys.
Perfect.
Oh, and our drinks are like hibiscus and coconut water. So it's just nice and refreshing.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Lovely. Tap in.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the leaves out now.
All right, perfect.
Because I didn't know you were dealing with these issues.
Okay. Yeah, listen, can you imagine?
Because we
It's weird.
live together and everything.
That's what these workshops are for, huh?
Very insightful.
What is this?
So yeah, just hibiscus syrup with coconut water and a tiny bit of coconut milk.
Nice.
They're all the same.
Yes, it's just kind of, you probably need a spoon to kind of like mix it. It is just sick. So best thing is to, you might need a spoon just to grab a bit of the romesco. But yeah, just grab veggies into this plate.
Exactly, bro. Listen, this is your plan to a T, bro.
Yeah. Professionalism.
Professionalism, I'm telling you.
I feel like it needs a bit more meat, so I'm just going to chop it in.
Sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Do you use a sleep mask?
I don't, but I'm
You do
actually,
now.
Yeah.
We'll soon.
So I'm actually trying to just reduce my screen time every day.
Do you need
It's
it?
like a big thing
Yeah, I
for me
know.
right now. Like,
You
using
need
the
more
alarm
screens.
clock today to come tomorrow because I always use my alarm on my phone. But then, you know, it's just that light, that there
It's
and night.
tempting, yeah.
Like read my book before bed and stuff. But I think just having something that I can just, you know.
Totally. Yeah, I use the alarm clock on my watch, which is quite helpful because then the phone doesn't need to be next to the bed. But yeah, the phone is such a
I know.
Yeah, it's a killer.
But you'll see
Yeah.
the glow is really soothing.
I just grab it with my hands.
Technically,
because
Yeah.
it's a mask
Yeah,
it's
rub
a
it with
different
your
function,
hands.
but I actually do use it.
What's this
I
sauce?
find it so
What's the
comforting,
base of
like,
it?
especially if I wake
It's
up
roasted peppers.
in the middle of the night, I'll have my sleep
Yeah.
mask on. If I can't get back to sleep, I'll put the eye pillow on top,
Awesome.
and the weight just like is
Oh,
so
It's
comforting.
good. Yeah.
Hit you, huh?
Andy, man.
My mum
Sweetens
always
you,
told me
bro.
when my two kids were born when they were babies, like, if you want
Mhm,
and
Yeah.
soft pressure on
That's
the
what's
back
up,
of
man.
your chest,
Oh,
and that
wow, man.
soft pressure is so
That's why I
soothing.
came when I saw the food was.
You're welcome.
I wasn't gonna come. I was like, oh, Nigerian food. I'll come to that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna show up
And
at
that
7.
soft pressure
Yeah.
on the eye pillow is so
Okay,
soothing.
just triggers that.
It's just soothing, yeah, it feels comforting and safe, yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah,
What
I'll
are you
listen to it for sure.
Yeah.
You wonder what I'm gonna say?
Thank you.
You'll find out soon. We got this.
I do, thank you. The drink is so nice
Yeah.
and fresh, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, there's more of the. That is.
Oh wait, is this the one you had that one? There was another you had some sauce that I couldn't get over.
I always make.
Yeah, this
Killers,
you do,
yeah.
you do
I can
killer
be
sauces,
anything.
you do killer sauces.
It could be anything.
That's right, it could be any of it. Factual. Factual.
It's so interesting to hear what you were saying about your partner because as a, like, I'm a solo business person
Mm-hmm.
and that comes with its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
But then a part of me also,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine having a business partner and
Yeah.
how
No, stay to the end.
that
We're
brings
gonna
with
do
so
it.
many challenges to actually find someone that you
I need to know everything.
align.
Is it true?
Yeah. It's like a match.
Amazing.
It is.
It's the
We've
Thank you,
spent,
appreciate
we
that.
always
One is
joke that
always
like
well.
we're
You have other plans.
we're I think it's a married couple. We've been together for so long
Okay.
that
Respectable.
um
You're here, so you're here.
like we've spent more time. Like I mean he's married and has a kid, but spends more time with me. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about our emotional connection to our business as well, like for me, you know, when I say, oh, I always feel like I should be
Yeah,
in
talk to me,
business,
what's up?
it's not out of obligation, it's like out of a deep care and
Alright,
drive,
so
it comes from like
the
such a
short version,
deep
yes.
place inside of me that
The
it
long
does
version
feel
is
sometimes like,
no
I
asterisk.
know,
And
it sounds,
asterisk
you know,
is
crazy or cool
as
or
long
whatever,
as
but like, yeah,
the
I'd rather
data
be
is
with
encapsulated
when
in
I'm
100%
sitting, you know,
as
with my kids or with my
The
husband, I'm thinking,
asterisk
oh,
is also that the
you know, I have
energy
this
Yeah.
and this
is
that I'd rather
actually
do.
renewable.
Yeah.
The other aspect, part of the
I mean,
asterisk
it
is
sounds
that
cool,
the
but
data centers that are
it's
using
somewhere you
renewable
can
energy
relate to.
are not.
No,
So,
yeah.
our business is,
Coverage
it's like another
to
day.
cover
Right?
Exactly, and you get to pick it. You get to decide everything about it.
Right, like that. Yeah.
That's not just happening.
Whereas everything else is a complication.
But the problem with all of those asterisks that's not even one. So, oh, the last part is,
Yeah.
as long as it is
If
something
you find
like
somebody
binary
that
outcome,
you've been with,
so something that people would want to,
there's something like reassuring
something like
and
medical
warm about being with like a business
Well,
partner or a life partner for a period of time. But
so
you still
for
think you're
natural
still
disasters
separate
and stuff
people.
like that, I have no issue with
So,
that.
like,
We're talking about
reconciling
creating
those two
a
things.
huge issue,
Yeah.
which is one of the main reasons why I'm not.
I'm definitely grateful to have a business partner. I wouldn't have stuck through it for that
I don't
long.
think it's fair
Um,
that.
there's just so many ups and downs and so much uncertainty. It's probably uncertainty that it's nice to have somebody to lean on in those moments. Like misery loves company, so it's nice to know that in a shitty moment that somebody else is having it with you. But yeah, this is the first time where I feel like there's a misalignment, or at least like a little bit of a pull between us, and like a little bit of a separation in alignment. So that's why. Yeah.
But the fact that the
Yeah,
first
I think about
time,
stuff
10
like-
years in,
like
is a
long
testament
term.
to your
So I'm
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're
That's
very.
still half measure.
It's unique. We're very lucky for that. But yeah. I've been trying to. He
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of saying in terms of like trying to figure out how to approach it before it becomes a bigger issue.
Okay.
Like I feel it, but when I bring it up, it doesn't seem like an issue to him.
That's the long
And
one.
when we became a business, we brought in another co-founder
into a larger
who's a new person to our relationship. So a third person brings more attention.
Yes.
And it's actually funny because like naturally me and the new
Oh,
person are
100%.
more aligned in terms of energy. And so now it's creating some sort of like deeper complications. And the person that came on is a friend of my original co-founder. So we're hitting levels here of complication.
There's a lot of dynamics.
Cause like it's also like we're gonna go on better and
Yeah.
he kind of feels like he has to be the bad guy and he's on like this very strict track.
Yeah.
Where we're just like let's just create and be creative.
Yeah.
And then it's like no, this is business now. We can afford to do that. Like we need to hit our.
Okay. How do you?
We have this route to market, and he's married with this. Like this is our route to market. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this is what we're doing. Everything we do goes back to the route to market, improving like a certain benchmark in that route to market. Which I think is good to have, but at the same time, it's really sucking like the freedom and creativity out of it.
My counterpoint to what you're saying, though, is
And so it's natural. I've been reading about like this the push and pull between like the business side and the creative side, but I've just never experienced it before. So I think because since we were a nonprofit, just like the mentality was a little different, I guess. But now that we've signed on with an investor who has stakes in it, like real financial stakes, it's just like the stress has
so
changed.
skills get lost.
I mean, it's a totally different
Cognizance
dynamic.
of data gets lost.
absolutely.
Literacy gets lost.
And like it's not even really sounding like it's your
Keeps going.
partner. It's kind
There's
of
also match to match with.
Yeah.
So once
the
it gets to
partner
a point
is
where
now
we're
falling.
no longer
It's kind of
we
you can imagine. You said you were more aligned before, so
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like
And I also understand that when you're in a place where
necessarily like the
you're working
stickler.
for
Usually,
it's
you
not down
have
to
to
you
fall into
to
that role. I
determine what
guess.
tools you use
And
in
I
your
kind of
workflow.
this is the problem with
So that's where I have more.
people who are just giving money, but they haven't actually got any
Yeah.
sort of involved
That's what I'm saying.
or like attachment to it. I feel like that whole model is
I'm not trying to get that
Yeah.
ability or.
I mean, you absolutely nailed it because
I was saying earlier, the stuff in the career.
he has a lot of resentment that he's had to follow,
So
and now he carries
I'm just
resentment
trying to
because
see how far I
like
can push
he
it before I
assumed
have
like
to confront
the
questions.
pseudo CEO, so he's the one who signed the actual document. And
Right.
I carry the stress of my name's on it. No, you don't. Like, we all carry. Like, we've been in this forever together.
Yeah.
Just because you
Appreciate that, man.
continue to be the same anyway. Yeah. So I want to do a session like as a group with Exposed and like start talking through some of these basics.
Yeah.
But then that's like the pushback. Everyone's like, why would we spend money on that?
Well, but that's foundational because if the two of you aren't in sync, then
Yeah.
nothing is going to work.
Yeah,
So
like,
that
he
seems like a
definitely
really
needs
good
to-
way to.
That's what I
your
feel
money.
like we're
Yeah.
not in sync. But
Yeah.
I guess he doesn't. He's just like, we got the route to market. So
Well, I think you can kind of use that then. It's kind of like, well, to get to the route of market, we need to be in line because
Yeah.
you can't go to the route of market by yourself.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's a good point.
I think you're right. Serve it.
I'm saying like it's the whole, it's the stakeholders, it's not me.
It's definitely the stakeholders that's changed.
Yeah,
It's
it's
changed.
there, yeah.
And then it's capitalism that makes us have to have stakeholders. That actually have one.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is my
Are you all good for
has a
mains?
slightly different function. The iFlow
Do you
is
want-
more
as
for
in,
meditation.
Are you happy to have names now?
Well,
Yes.
essentially what I was
Because if
saying is
we
that
we'll serve that up and then
there's something really
and then I'll respond to all your
Back to back. It's gonna be like a lightning round. Love it.
Great.
So that's the functional.
I've got enough. It's so good though. Honestly,
there was a lot to unpack. That's why I'm here.
And I can't get back to sleep, I put the pillow on top and that light pressure is really soothing helps me go to sleep. So the light pressure
Delightful.
can be used for.
What a pleasure. I know, right? Bro, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
It's actually
I'm gonna make sure everyone gets
Does she just like sell this on the side?
What's in this one?
Yeah.
It's
Oh, is it like maybe you can ask them. Yeah. Just bottles. That's actually good.
But like,
The idea is also.
Listening more than
That's a good
now I'm out.
Rituals.
The what? one that's
Because like,
really
yeah, because like it's
two and a half ingredients.
Really?
Yeah, like avocado, peppers, some red tomatoes, and then garlic.
Just enough to stop the people
Lots of
just
different
dilating
flavors.
small.
Yeah.
Do you like to do?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to experiment more.
Are you living like
learn more
living
things.
stuff?
So,
No, I mean Forest Gate, East London. So yeah.
You're living like the other side of London.
Okay.
Essentially, how do you expand
Yeah.
Over there by
start making bread and
Yeah, and every time like,
like you want to go to the baking side.
it's like every time I see you in the city, I always just like,
ingredients.
oh, these guys.
I want to.
Bro,
That's all I want to do.
at least an hour from
Every
here.
time I just saw my video or doing a bit, the only thing I was like, oh, these guys.
I appreciate that.
I'm making a lot.
You know,
It's like, oh fuck, that's
You know what? Because when people show up, they're just like,
Yeah.
enjoy yourself. Like,
Really?
because I'm going anyway.
Yeah.
Just to get into Central.
Yeah.
But,
So Eastgate is near what?
That's step one.
it's next, just beyond Stratford. So Stratford, Maryland, Forest Gate.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at. So I've been there for the past couple months.
Yes, it does take
And then-
time to then like
Yeah, see what happens next.
plant.
But I'll probably be there until
And
at least
bake and all
the
these
beginning of
things.
next year, I reckon.
It's so much better in the long run.
Yeah, about 6 months or so.
Exactly.
The actual process of it.
Yeah, yeah, I took down my.
Save the battery.
Save the battery. Well then.
Alright, no worries.
Like, you know, I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Oh, wonderful.
So, yeah. So, I, you know, they have other
Yeah, you
products.
The food?
The food.
The food I'm finding is great. It's now top of the line. It's not done anything else.
Oh no,
You know, it's been really nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had no expectations of what it was going to be. But I like small groups like this. I didn't know how many people were going to come. But it's nice to like meet here and
Yeah,
have
yeah,
space
yeah.
to talk and share.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do?
I don't believe in so much. I believe in the products and I believe in the
Yes,
values, you know,
It's all
made by
for
women.
me, I didn't really
all
know
made
what
in
this was
all
going to be
the-
about.
Me neither.
It was you
The
just
same
saying
as you. So it's been a pleasant surprise,
Yeah.
but whatever is discussed here, I know the things
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
Twice in
I
1
make
week.
interesting to my everyday
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
I
sure.
think what you said, I kind of came with the same
my
thing.
favorite.
Just
Yes.
trying to-
Because like
Everybody's perspective and I think it's really important to
Oh, you're right.
contribute
So you got
and
freedom.
I'm like, yes.
Absolutely.
So many things that have been said today already. I just listen. I go like, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
they're writing
yeah.
notes. I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah, I think we spend. Well, I don't know. I spend a lot of time like in my own head, and then like in
know, I've got a
podcasts,
thing.
and reading
Remember
about
when you
things,
did
and
that?
you're always just like reflecting it to your own
As in
life.
you do podcasts or you do?
No, I listen like
I'm a
yeah.
big podcast
And in terms of like
Yeah.
getting to like professional or self-development,
The energy was getting up and I
But
started
it's nice to just like hear from other people.
de-escalation.
The very first
Yeah,
group.
like,
Yeah, the very first
Yeah.
group with my like autistic, genuinely autistic like friend, and they were talking about.
No, I really appreciate it.
Anyway, they were coming from completely different.
Completely
Yeah,
different.
that was the time.
That was definitely.
Okay.
Okay, everyone. Dinner is ready.
So much.
We have larger plates.
Yeah.
If
One thing
you're
that has
leaving.
been helping
And
me
salad.
explore.
Glorious.
No, the thing is,
Oven.
you know, like questions and answers,
Yeah, but that's gonna
but
change
code
the
is so much more
feeling.
functional.
Oh, okay.
Literally, that's so you can install it as a browser extension. So for example, yeah,
Just that one
literally,
phone
I know,
call.
it was a game changer. So for example, today I needed to create an invoice. Invoice, it's like, should be so simple, but it's one of those like menial tasks that I despise doing. So I went to my Zoho invoices and and then I went to my Claude browser extension and I filled in the details of the invoice and I was like, please make this invoice for me. And I literally watched the mouse go around. I just sat and watched the mouse go around and made the invoice for me. Yeah.
Now we.
The desktop app and the browser extension.
Oh, this thing. I'll take over.
It's like a personal assistant, yeah, and like all the really annoying menial tasks that you'll do for you.
Yes, get in there. You can put them on the side here, on the rack.
This looks and smells amazing.
Right? Although it's food in it, I'm telling you. And she's definitely food in.
Simple.
Oh, for sure.
We'll take a picture of your steak.
I'll use the spoon plate because I think.
Of you serving yourself. You're not in the video.
I should have enough for us too.
I'm just watching the plate.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Everything looks and smells beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And you get
Can't go wrong, man. Can't go wrong, bro.
It's a staple for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Then what is it?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I like that. Bano. Get in them.
I'm waiting. I don't eat when I'm working.
We'll save you.
Yeah, I'll take like a little something on the way out if there's any left.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, though.
Go ahead.
I appreciate it.
No, I think one person had to have steak. Yeah, the chicken counts as. Oh no. Yeah. So please take that, yes.
I like diabetes is my thing rather than endocrine, which was like the thing about endocrine and hormones is that so endocrine is like the study of hormones. Endocrinology is like looking at it. The thing is it can impact like head to toe, like literally. So it's like brain stuff, it's thyroid stuff, it's bone stuff, it's blood pressure, it's gender reassignment, it's and fertility and like when you train for that and diabetes, because that's also a hormone, like insulin and glucose are also hormones. So insulin's a hormone. And so my focus was diabetes. And so my research was diabetes. And this, I'm doing a little bit of diabetes. Which type? Do you know? Are they on
The
Instagram?
one that's in the
He has to take it.
He has to take an injection. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be type 1.
But if anyone really like randomly and he's like in his 30s,
Yeah.
so we just what we say, so yeah, and it wasn't in his immediate family. It was
Room temperature.
yeah.
Is he on that pump? Or just injection? There's so much, like, in the last 10, 15 years, care has. You can now have pumps that control it for you. And so you could have like insulin pumps that you attach and then it controls your diabetes.
Yeah, my friend's got one of those.
Yeah.
Dexcom. She's in the
Dexcom.
US.
That measures your glucose levels. And then there's a pump that will go with it.
Yeah.
There are various different brands. Omnipod is one.
Yeah.
Where you, yeah.
It just happens automatically.
Yeah. So that's literally happened in the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with the Omnipod ones is that a lot of insurance in the US isn't covered. Yeah. So that's the only reason why I know about this stuff. But my friend that lives there
It is
has it.
crazy.
It's nuts.
Like every time I hear about it, it just makes me twitch slightly because they charge for like
All of it.
if you don't have insulin, you will die. If
Yeah.
you have type 1. They have to.
Yes, you will be, yeah.
So some people who can't afford the technology then have to go to like Walmart to buy like
Insulin so they can
Yeah.
continue to exist.
so
It's
that they
crazy.
can live. It's crazy.
Yeah. Because there was a period of time earlier in the summer where her insurance changed the type that they were going to cover, and it wasn't compatible with the pod that she had. So, but the pod that she needed wasn't covered by the insurance. So it was a whole thing which I could figure out how to sort it out. But she managed to get sorted.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I tried. All we're talking about here is not.
That's crazy. You usually Mangione. You just need him doing the rest of them now. Crazy.
What's happening with that guy anyway?
He pled guilty. He said, yes, I shot him.
I respect that.
Do we hear, you know Luigi Mangione?
Huh?
Luigi Mangione? So this is a guy in his 30s.
Yeah, this was last year.
Good looking young guy who shot the CEO of one of these insurance companies.
Did he really do it?
Yeah.
It was literally a video.
The only reason why there's a video is because he stopped to talk to somebody and he wants to do it.
He did it because this guy, this company, this insurance company, so one of the things they did was reduce the amount of anesthetic you can give somebody under surgery. So they would have to, once they got past a certain amount, they would then have to pay. Like, and that's just like one example.
Yeah.
And this thing about not covering insulin is like tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote, like, if you read his manifesto, it's like that particular company would have been responsible for a lot of deaths.
Yeah.
Because they kept shifting and increasing their premiums so people couldn't
Sounds like Black Mirror episodes.
We're so past.
Yeah.
I feel like the Black Mirror episodes of 2020, we've now gone like way beyond.
I feel like we've been in Black Mirror since Trump.
Since.
So I think I'm gonna have a go at some of these while you're eating. And what I'll do as well is that I have I'm gonna be taking footage of this as well, so you can all get a copy. Oh, actually, I've got an even better idea. 1 second. Technology. I should have been doing that at the beginning. So anyway, this is fine. All right. So I'm gonna go through this one by one, and if anybody has anything that they want to like jump in and add or anything like that, then just go for it. So the first one was about the hormones, right? And just this idea, because obviously you're talking about hormones in terms of cycles and things, and this is something that's actually I found really important in this conversation because, for example, there's some countries now who give you menstrual leave and things like that. UK doesn't do that yet. But there's also a lot of people, especially when you are working for yourself in some cases, but certain companies do encourage that you arrange your months to do the task that you have energy for in those particular phases. So for example, you may have a lot of energy 1 month, obviously, but then the moment the luteal phase kicks in, it's a wrap. So you're going to be looking at, okay, what are the things that require the least energy and do those during those weeks. So there's an element of, no, we can't change the cycle, but then we can change what we do to make the cycle not have so much of a difficult impact, because I think the biggest problem is when you have the biggest challenges to do when you have the least amount of energy to do them. So that's one of the things with that. And that's not just with like the menstrual cycle. I think it's just in general, being able to gauge what your energy level is. Like, so for example, I was talking to someone recently, one particular client, and we were talking about this idea of no red days. And it's like the green days are when everything is going absolutely according to plan. Like you wake up in the morning and you're like, right, this is what I want to have achieved by the end of today. You do your blue sky thinking plan. That's a green day. The orange or amber day is like the minimum viable product of that day. Like what's the smallest thing I could do? The first time I heard it talked about, it was really talking about fitness. So for example, if you're doing like a whole gym session, the amber day might be just 10 press-ups or like a walk around the park or something like that, right? What's the minimum version you can do? And then the red day is none of that. The work version is that there are some days when you have so much energy, you're blowing into tomorrow's to-do list, right? and some days you struggle to do the first thing on that list. The thing about the energy though, and this is something that I would tag on to what Michelle was talking about earlier on with the time. It's not just time, it's the energy. So like I've got this framework that I use called the relief framework, and one of the E's is energy management, because time management is really good, and I think that's what a lot of people talk about, especially when it comes to, I was watching a podcast this morning about flow state and how to get into that with managing your hormonal levels and all that kind of stuff, how to make sure you're keeping it. But you can have a really, really packed day and get to the end of it and still feel energized, or you can have like a really bad morning and ruin your entire week. So sometimes it's about your energy, not just your time. So it's managing that. And what you'll notice is, and I think the menstrual cycle is a good example of that, you'll see patterns. I work really well in the mornings doing these kind of tasks. I work better in the evenings doing those kind of tasks. And then you start to work through that way. And the first thing to do is like look back over the last, it's easier if you journal this, because then you can actually have tangible things to go by. But look at your patterns and say, okay, over the last 3 months, I've noticed that when it comes to the weekend, I have this kind of energy. Midweek, I have that kind of energy. Mornings, I have this. When I've just done this, I have that kind of energy, etc. And then you can start practically framing your time around the energy as opposed to just the time. And then you start to, yeah.
I was going to say, I think you're actually right. I think there was a time when I woke up quite early in the morning, and I found that anytime I work between like 5 and like 7 a.m., I'm like super creative. Like I can write a book, like I can really do anything creative in the morning. But if I have to do tasks that is linked to business, or like website stuff, or like optimization, or anything to do with my business, I'm better doing that after 7.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but yeah.
It's not weird, it makes perfect sense. So, and the thing is, what's right for you may not be right for the next person. It's just that you will have certain types of tasks that you're really good at. Me, I'm very similar to you. I used to do my like morning podcasts and stuff at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Just like, I'll wake up, literally get out of bed, turn on record, and just be like pumping out content, because I had the energy for that at that time in the morning. I didn't have the same kind of energy for that once my day had finished. So, which is why I put it at the bookended it at the front. So think about what types of tasks you have during an average day, and then try and frame them around that, is what I'd say for that. There was a thing that was, what's the right thing to do next? And there was a whole, we could do a whole workshop on that alone. Because the question in my mind is, how do you define right? Like, how do you know what's right? Like, one thing I would encourage you to think about is look back over the decisions you've made, just through life in general, and how did you know they were the right ones to make? And actually think about when, if you ever consider them to be the right one, when that acknowledgement came. Usually what's more likely to happen is we have no idea if it's the right decision to make. But then we make the right decisions out of what we make. So I've made the decision now, so that becomes the right one, and we make it work. And ultimately, and that is one of the things that is, like they say, if you were to take any particular decision, go a year ahead and ask how you're dealing with it, most decisions you'll be able to have managed by then. So think about it that way, especially if it's something that's stopping you from taking a step forward. What I would say, actually, though, is there are big decisions and small decisions. I can't remember who it was, but you want to be careful making little effort for big decisions and big effort for little decisions. So what we often find is like we ruminate over tiny stuff which doesn't really matter, and often that's just a distraction for the big stuff that actually does. So if it's a big decision, then absolutely take your time with it. Make sure it's the right one. Look for peace. Like my mum, for example, one of her guiding principles is, when I think about this decision, which outcome brings me the most peace? So, and it's not necessarily always the logical one. So you might come to the end of it and be like, okay, I need to make the decision. There's 3 paths ahead of me. If I do this path in a year, this is where I could be. This path, I could be here. This path, I could be here. This one, I could be richer, but there's something about it that doesn't give me peace. Like, I don't know what I would have had to do to get here. I don't know, whatever, but there's something that just doesn't give me peace. This one might be a bit more of a struggle, but for some reason, I'm drawn more towards it. And when I think about it, I see myself feeling happier about it. There's a lot of intuition within our bodies that if we ask ourselves the right question, we'll be able to be brought to the surface. So think about it in terms of that. Try not to let what is the right decision stop you from making a decision. Yeah. Which ties in sweetly with perfectionism. Like a segue, smooth around the bend into perfectionism, yeah? Because perfectionism is studied quite a lot. There's a lot of papers on this, actually. So in theory, you could just Google this thing, to be fair. Perfectionism is not necessarily always a bad thing. And I think one of the things I'm really lean for is try not to make certain things sound like a good or bad thing necessarily, because then it brings judgment to it. I would ask yourself, what is this feeling, this thing trying to tell me? Perfectionism is not just about having things perfect. Often it's about what happens when they're not perfect. That is really the difference. Like, if they're not perfect, what happens? Because a lot of people have like high goals and stuff, but they're not necessarily perfectionists. So a real perfectionist is someone where it's not just about getting it right, it's about what happens internally if it's not considered perfect. And usually that's built on fears, traumas, all that kind of stuff. Something in your life had to be perfect for peace to reign. And so now everything needs to be perfect, or else the entire house comes tumbling down. And so, but the challenge then is that often can influence the decisions you make. Because I said this once before, logically we know perfection doesn't exist, right? Logically, hypothetically. Like even especially as a creative or an artist, you can work on something all you like, but there's no point where you can sit back and say that's perfect now, right? And so we're almost setting ourselves up to fail with the concept of it, because whatever we do is going to fall short. Even iPhone isn't perfect because they keep bringing updates every year, right? So there's always something you can build on. You're always going to learn something new that you can tweak. There's always another color you can add to the palette. There's always another depth of field you can change. There's always going to be something that you think that you can improve something with. So we never really reach it, but it's something to aim for. Because if we don't have something like that to aim for, then we might not even reach mediocre. So it's something that helps us to build standard, but it's just that when it gets to the point where it gets so debilitating that it stops us from taking action, that's when it becomes a problem, because you then have a chasm that gets built between this idea of perfection that you know deep inside you're never really going to reach versus where you are right now. And then what happens psychologically is we start using that gap to beat ourselves up, and it kind of like reinforces this idea that we're not perfect because we can't even take the step. And then once we do take the step, we question everything about the step, and then the step becomes the wrong step, even though there is no wrong step or right step. It's just a step. Right? So like I said, perfectionism itself isn't a problem if it helps you to create great things and to think about detail and to care about what you're building. But if it stops you from taking action, I find the best way to reach perfection is to move. So if you don't move, then everything just remains an idea. So questions on perfectionism. I'm touching the surface, by the way, because this is like a huge topic. So I'm just giving you concepts to think about, because there in no way we'll be able to dig deep into some of these. But this is great. This is giving me great context that you'll probably see on my socials over the next few months. And one of the things I want to do as well, I'm for everyone in here, you will get a link so we can have like a little session if there's something really specific that you do actually want to talk about that we can work through. So that just as a bit of a gift to you lot. Structure and systemic pressures. This one's tough because it's out of your control. And I'd say there's an exercise I do, right, where we look at circle of control, circle of influence, and circle of concern. And what we would do in that exercise is, sometimes it's not even in circles, you do it in columns. What is in my control? What is in my influence? What is in my concern? What is in your control? The only thing that is in your control, does anyone have any idea what that might be? Your actions. Come on now. Pew, 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 pew. Gold stars. Your actions. That's literally it. It's wild, but it's almost too simple to think about. Your actions are all that are in your control. Other people's reactions are not in your control. So when people say that they made me do that, there was because if I did that same thing to 12 different people, they'll have 12 different reactions. So there's nothing about that made them do that. It's something about the individual that responded to it that way that led them to the action. So this is an important one, because when we're thinking about systems, all we can do is think about our little corner that we chip away at. So I know you, right? So I know the work you're doing. And one of the things that's really tough when we're thinking about systems, and I was reading a book about systems recently, about systems thinking. The whole world is built on systems, whether they're like institutional, like we think about it, or not. Everything is built on systems, but it means that everything is related. That's all it means, right? But what we need to understand is that the little things that we do are not just little things, but because they're added to little things that other people do. And together they make big things. And so that's how revolutions are made, by lots of individuals doing a lot of different things. So when you talk about knocking down the institutions and rebuilding back up again and stuff, that might be possible in like 10, 20 years time. But what can be overwhelming is if I feel like I need to do that now. Do you know what I mean? That bit is how we lose some of the greatest leaders, because they take the responsibility for the entire system on the shoulders of an individual. And that is how they burn out. That's how they find themselves doing all kinds of different coping mechanisms that aren't as healthy as they could be. That's how they jump off something. Like, do you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff can happen because they're trying to make something that isn't even in their control something that's in their control. So yeah, there's an intersection, like you said, because there's a system part, the external part, but there's also the internal part, the stuff that you're handling on a day-to-day basis that adds to all of that. Business relationships. Yes, sir. So like we've talked about this with us, yeah. But the one thing I thought was interesting about what you were saying was, because it's the how, not necessarily the where you're going, right? So the destination you're clear about, but it's how you get there. You're both on the same boat, but it's just the course. And this is something that happens a lot with co-founders, and just in general teams. Like, I was brought up this way. It might be a cultural thing. It might be a gender thing. It might be anything that makes me think that this is the best way to go. And someone else with their entirely different setup is thinking this is the way to go. Both can get there. So then the question is, how do you find alignment? And it can be a bunch of different ways. Either you can have some things where you experiment with some stuff. Okay, cool. You think this is a great way, let's try it for 3 months, see if it works. If it doesn't work, we try it my way. If that works, then we'll go for that, right? That might be one of them, right? It could be trying to find the common denominator between the different routes. Like, okay, these are all land, these are all sea, these are all air. At least we agree on that. And then we focus on how to make that most efficient. So what is the thing that all of you are agreeing on in terms of the route that you can actually double down on, so that the little things don't matter as much? Because without that, if one person feels like they're going completely different to everyone else. It can feel like a real big rift between them, right? But we'll work on that, don't worry. Balance came up a lot in terms of the personal and professional. One of the things I don't like the work-life balance term, and I've said this before, I prefer work, rest, play balance. And there's lots of things you can do once you look at it that way, because if you imagine a scale, if work is as important as my life, then you're gonna burn out ultimately, right? So it's work, rest, and play are all part of your life. None of that is equal to your life, right? They're all subsections of the life. So it's really important to get that level correct first, and then you understand what you're actually trying to balance. So when it comes to work and play, it's difficult for people who are in making their own company, for example, or working how many hours a day and all that, or we've got 3 or 4 different businesses and all that kind of stuff. It could be really difficult to find that balance. But unfortunately, and this is something I used to say a lot, there's a ship analogy that I use so much these days because it's the best way to illustrate it. I think when we think about balance, we think about a seesaw, everything being equal and all that kind of stuff. That if that's what you're looking for, forget about it, man. Forget about it, man. It's not, you're not gonna find it. Like having it where everything is perfect, in line with everything, it just doesn't happen that way. Like today, you might be moving house. Tomorrow, you might be thinking about selling the business. The week after, you might be thinking about starting a new one. The week after that, you might find out someone is pregnant. The week after that, you might be suffering with grief. The week after that, there might be a new investor. Like, it just doesn't, your home life and your work life, they're both moving all the time. So balance for me is how can I be in balance on a ship that's constantly moving? Yeah. So in that case, it's that sigh was deep. But yeah, so for me in that case, then the question is, how can I handle whatever waves come my way? That's the real question. So it might look like this week I have X amount of time. Okay, date night is always going to be that. That's the one thing that's going to be the anchor, but the other things might change, right? It might be that, okay, whatever happens on a Friday, I'm going to leave work at this time, even if I haven't finished, which means that Parkinson's law is that supply expands to meet demand, which is basically if I give myself 3 months to do something, it'll take 3 months. If I give myself 6 months to do something, it'll take 6 months. So if I tell myself this is how much time I'm going to have, I then can find a way to make it work for that amount of time and be at peace without guilt if I can, walking away at the end of that to pick it up when I agree to pick it up next, right? And there's lots of different ways and systems and stuff you can put in place to allow yourself to do that. And it doesn't happen overnight, but if you know that's where you want to get to have that kind of flexibility, it's something you can build up, especially if you're building your business at that moment, right? So trying to be in balance like a seesaw in our work, things are just too malleable, right? Try and be in balance. And part of that is talking about your, not just your physical, but also your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, those kind of things that are like your rituals to keep you balanced, to keep you grounded in the middle of things. Are you in alignment with your purpose? Are you making decisions that your future and past self will be happy about? Are you sleeping right? So, right, and all those different things. Are you doing these things which means that you show up in a day with as many spoons as you can before the ship starts rocking? Yeah. Expectations of self will. Woo-wee! Hands up who's got like high expectations of themselves. All right. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Shall we take a collective sigh? Yes, indeed. So expectations, man, it's crazy. You mentioned culture earlier on, but ultimately we okay, So expectations are one thing. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper and then come back to the surface, okay? So as we grow up, we build, especially in our formative years, we learn what it means to be human, right? We learn all the systems, right and wrong. We learn all these things as we grow up, right? And often that's when the expectations begin. But then you got to think to yourself, where did they come from? Because children, like babies, don't have expectations because they can't speak, they don't understand. They just know they want to eat, sleep, poo. That's about it. At some point, they start to hear things, and they start to see things, and they start to register that these things are about me in some kind of way, shape, or form. Kids are like the greatest of narcissists, by the way. So up till about the age of 12 or something like that, they don't really understand the concept that the world doesn't revolve around them. And why should they? Because in terms of their developmental, everything is about, I scream and then someone shows up. I go this way and then people laugh, and I do this and da da da. So it's only later on in life that they actually realize that there's a separation between self and everything around. But then the moment they realize that, then the survival mode starts to kick in. It's like, what can I do to make sure I get the attention I need, I get my needs filled and all that kind of stuff. And then you start to see children doing things that really shouldn't be in their responsibility to do. I need to be the funny one so that I can keep the peace in the house. And then that person ends up being the funny one as an adult and doesn't touch their emotional, all that kind of stuff. I need to be the person who's always the problem solver because the parents aren't doing that. So I need to be, I need to be the person who's looking after my siblings because I'm the oldest and my parents are running 2 jobs and all that kind of stuff, right? And then they end up being the ones who take on everyone's responsibilities when they're older, right? So there's a thread that comes all the way from childhood into adulthood, and that expectations probably didn't start in adulthood. It probably started a lot younger than that, which means that there's 2 things. One, it can be really difficult to unpack, and anybody who wants to unpack, I would prepare you from now. It may not be a smooth road, right? But then also there is an element of, if you do unpack that, the other side of the unpacking, which is actually for me even more of a challenge actually, is giving yourself the grace to know that all the decisions you made, which are based on what you didn't know before, you don't have to feel guilty for. Because then for me, for example, I had real revelations when I did therapy coming out of pandemic, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so simple. Why didn't I know this? Why didn't I do this decades ago? But I had to give myself grace to be like, yeah, but I didn't know that decades ago, right? So now what am I going to do moving forward? So going back to expectations, one thing I would ask yourselves, anyone who's got high expectations, first of all, is where did that expectation come from? And you might realize that it might not have been your voice that is in your head speaking that expectation. It could be family, friend, TV show, whatever it could be. Do you know what I mean? It could be anything. But we internalize that. Or it could just be our primitive understanding of how the world works. I expect myself to be perfect because when I did everything right, everything went well. As a child, that seems like an A-B line. But as an adult, we know that it's more complex than that. Like, you can only control yourself. You can't control your parents, but you're thinking that what you're doing is controlling what they do. So expectations of self. There was a sentence that came up earlier. Unless I do this, I'm not successful. I was like, And again, we could spend a whole day on this one right here. First one is what does successful mean, and I would encourage everyone to think about it.
For me, the thing that plays in my head is unless I'm making money, I'm not successful. So success is measured by the finances.
Yes. And I had this conversation recently. Money for what? Because if you can do that without the money, then you don't need the money. And then it changes the whole idea about what success means. Often success really is about freedom, right? So I want to be able to do this, and the money allows me to do that. But like what this past couple of years specifically has taught me is half of the stuff I've done, I haven't had to reach into my pocket for diddly, right? Like if I need a space, it's about building relationships with people who have spaces. If I need to reach people, it's about building relationships with people who have a network. If, you know, all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden, this figure that was arbitrary in the first place doesn't seem to be so necessary. And I realized that actually the thing that allowed me to do, which is to have choices, I can actually have now. And there's this old adage of the guy, I think in the story is a fisherman, and someone is like, oh my gosh, you're an amazing fisherman, you should do more and all that kind of stuff so you can hire people. And he's like, why should I do that? Well, if you hire people, you can build a business around it, you can expand. And it's like, why you can do that? It's like, if you expand, you can go international, you can be on this market, you can go global, you can make so much money. It's like, why should I do that? It was, well, if you have so much money, you can do whatever you want. He's like, but I'm doing that now. So the question is like, what does success mean to you? Because if you're not clear on that, you might get to that number, for example, and it is empty. And we're starting to see that a lot now. A lot of the people who we think are successful by this measure that we all seem to agree on, are talking quite freely now about how, I was listening to one the other day where he sold his business, and it was literally like one single transaction in the 8 digits into his account, like that. And the joy lasted for about 7 minutes, he said. And then he was like, what now? Right? He's like, okay, cool. Now I'm rich, objectively. What now? And so what does success mean to you before we get to unless I do this? Because if you're not clear on that, then everything else is like a falling deck of cards anyway. Because the worst thing to do is to climb a mountain and then find out it wasn't yours to climb in the first place. So you want to be very careful of that. Yeah. Yeah.
That is the worst thing ever.
Right?
Sorry.
Imagine. Yeah.
All that work and effort.
And then also, I think as well, like the other mountain quote that I always used to do is like, try not to reward yourself for climbing a mountain by giving yourself another mountain. Because I think one thing we don't do, which goes back to this idea of stress and nervous system and stuff, we don't celebrate our wins enough for our actual, if I was to be really like biological with it, we don't celebrate our wins enough for our nervous system to know that the danger is over, or like the challenge is over. So it doesn't reset in between tasks anymore, or in between goals. It just goes from one goal to another. So instead of going stress being up here and then it goes down like this, it goes like this, right? Until we reach this like saturated level of stress where our bodies just shut down. Yeah.
It's kind of like with work, I think, I don't know if you guys like work and stuff, but basically, some of the objectives are set for the year. Once you hit those objectives, you're like, right, we hit to the end of the year, woo, you get your bonus, woo, all right, let's go again. Like, it just continues and continues and continues. And I think that's why, like, one of the reasons I was like, one of the rocks for me to work, because it's like, it's an endless uphill climb, and you can't really stop it. I was talking to my man here about AI, and it's like, with AI, it's like everyone has to use AI. It's like it's mandatory for them to use it. If I don't use it. Yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah, it is. And there's autonomy involved in that as well. It's like, can I do things my way or not? That's another source of stress I find a lot. Like, I have to do this way, but it disagrees with my values, for example. That can be a really big challenge, especially if you're being forced to.
Yeah, that's my whole thing.
Yeah, right?
It's more exactly, yeah.
So but we've also spoken about the alternative, like ways to build on your network that will give you access to different people, different opportunities and stuff. So it's not necessarily right on you having to use those things. Like one of the things that I would encourage, there's a concept called appreciative inquiry. It's basically a really positive way to ask questions. And the first time I heard it, I was like, this is rubbish, this is bull, because you're going to be thinking too blue sky thinking. You're not going to solve the problems, but it really does help. It's like the difference between what can I do better versus what is the one thing that if I did right now in 10 years will make things so unrecognizable that I would not want to change it. Right? So it's like putting you into this incredibly positive space. Like instead of what can I do better, it's like what would have the greatest impact in 10 years where I'll be so thankful that I made this decision.
What did you call that?
Appreciative inquiry. And it's a framework that I use. Like there's a skill to it in how to ask the questions, but one, it flips the difference between anxiety and excitement, which physiologically is very similar, but one's anticipating a negative outcome, one's anticipating a positive outcome. So if you can phrase things in a way that makes you extremely positively outcome focused, the problems get soaked up with that, but what you aim for is like the stars as opposed to the clouds.
I was just gonna say something about the mountain. I've reframed my mountain. I don't know if this will connect with everybody, but I've just decided that instead of having this mentality of like I need to push for a peak, like just hit that goal, and then once I have that goal, then like I'll have achieved like what I want to achieve. Like I just think that what's helped me is this thought process that like I'm just always gonna be on the mountain, in the sense that like there's never going to be a moment where like it's perfect, where I've achieved all my goals, and then because that what that mentality drives is like, oh, I have to push hard for the year and then I get this, and then it's never brings the satisfaction that I think it's going to bring. All it does is bring like another goal. So I've been trying to reframe it as like, for me, it's like this is just life, and I'm on the mountain and trying to enjoy the journey on the mountain while I'm working towards a goal. I think that we were talking about like enjoying the process and just see where you end up. And that's kind of what I've been trying to embrace, is like, I'm not working towards this big expectation of like, once I hit that, then everything will have like worked out. Because when you hit that, inevitably it's not gonna be the thing. Like life is just like a journey of self-improvement. And so I've really been trying to reframe it as like just trying to create processes that I enjoy, that I want to be a part of, and then seeing where it takes me and like trying to be more present with it. I know like it's not, because then that goes into like being able to like have your freedom to be able to do that. But for me, I was like so goal driven all the time, and then the achieving goals was never like, that is the success thing. Like what is success? Like I thought I was successful, but I wasn't happy. So I was like, well, if I'm not happy because of but I think that I have success. So then it was more about just like trying, like I'm never gonna be off this mountain, but like the mountain's not a bad thing. It's just like the journey of life, and I'm just going through it. So that's what I've been trying to reframe.
Do you know what I add as well to that reframe? I'll reframe the reframe as well. It's like, I love a good reframe. Is I can't remember if I mentioned this to you. Infinite game theory. Did I tell you about that?
I don't know if we were talking about it.
So game theory is this idea. Has anyone heard of game theory? Okay, cool. So game theory is this idea that everyone's playing a game, right? So if you imagine something like football, everyone knows the rules, everyone's got a specific number of players, everyone knows that to score a point, you have to do this, and there's a winner, which means there's a loser, right? And that's the equivalent of like climbing a mountain. You get to the top, you achieve the thing, it's boom, it's done. There's a finish line. Everyone goes home at the end of that mountaintop. Infinite game theory is where you just love playing football. So in this mode, it's like instead of climbing a mountain being the goal is just to enjoy walking. Which means that you will always be reaching peaks, but the peak was never the goal. It was to enjoy the walk. So the question then is like, in what we do in terms of our businesses, in terms of how we affect other people, how can we do it in a way that it keeps us enjoying the walk? Really, that's the basic concept around infinite game theory. So for example, with me, this is a great event, but this was not the goal. This is just part of the journey. Yeah. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to add to that. But my G, guy. We had the internal and external bit, the distractions being never present and things like that. Presence is, when was the last time you felt completely present?
So, I mean, I must say that it's gotten a little bit better since I've been doing regular meditations. So in the evening and in the morning, I've been doing just 10 or 15-minute meditations. And in those moments, I'm definitely present.
Yes.
So I guess this morning was the last time when I did my meditation.
How do you feel when you're present in that state?
Calm, in my body, you know, my mind is quiet.
When do you feel that way while you're doing something?
So I do get into kind of a hyper-focus mode when I have a very clear project. So I think part of it was what you had mentioned was not always exactly knowing what the right steps are. And so when I have like a clear thing that I'm working on, I can focus in on it. And then sometimes time can just pass and I don't feel it and I'm really fully in what I'm doing. But yeah, the sometimes not knowing exactly what the right thing to be doing is the thing that takes me out of that.
That last sentence that you said, I'm going to unpack that just a little bit because it was like I fed it to you. Because what you're talking about is flow state. The reason why I asked that question is people usually feel like they're only present when they're meditating and being still, but you can be present while doing stuff. It's just if you're locked into a task, then you become completely consumed with the thing and you become very present in that moment. I find any time that time becomes irrelevant, you're probably present, right? So the thing about flow state though, you do need a clear goal, right? And that is part of the challenge. And the goal can't be so big that you don't want to start it. So usually it's just out of your comfort zone. It's like in your stretch zone, we call it. So it's like, okay, this is a little bit of a challenging thing. I had to figure this out. I have to get into my mind a little bit. I need concentration, all that kind of stuff. But it's not easy, right? Easy, you can kind of easily slip in and out of concentration, but it needs to be slightly challenging for it to be flow state. Then you need no distractions, right? Which can also knock you out of flow state. But there's actually a skill to be able to jump back into flow state, which is like a whole thing. The reason why I'm talking about this a little bit is that what happens in your body is when you're in flow state, you'll notice actually that sometimes when you're doing flow state activities, you don't feel stressed, you just feel locked in. The moment you're doing a challenge which is slightly too much outside of it, that's when the stress starts pouring in. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to speak to this person. Oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed, right? Or, oh, there's 12 things, but the moment I start with the first one, it's a wrap. You know, once you start getting into flow state, the stress in your body is actually what we call eustress, eustress. That's the good stress. It's the one that keeps you locked in. Distress is when you're outside of that range. So there's an element of having a goal uninterrupted, but then also having some kind of feedback. It's good to have some kind of progress. Okay, I'm making progress on this thing. I'm getting closer to that goal. If you don't feel that, that can sometimes knock you out of flow state as well. So there's a lot of things around that. And I would encourage you this week to think about the tasks you're doing. Am I in flow or am I just in stress? Like, ask yourself that question as you're doing certain things. Because once you understand that, then you can avoid being distracted. One thing I learned recently, I'm going to give you this as a cheat code because I only learned this. Me, the burnout prevention coach, I only learned this, was it last week or something like that? Does everyone know what dopamine is? Okay, so it's like your reward drug. Like it gives you, your body shoots off this hormone that gets you, it's like, okay, I've done this thing, yeah. It's like a little gold chain or something like that. Maybe not gold. Maybe a medal. Let's go with the medal. It's a little medal. But with regards to flow state, one of the things that helps is not having something that you were doing which is more stimulating and then trying to get into it. It's actually better if you're bored first because you actually want to do something stimulating, which is the task. So for example, if I've got a really difficult thing to do, I've got to write that book, I've got to write that email, I've got to whatever, but I've also got the game playing over here. I've also got someone I really like who's waving at me outside of the window. I've also got all this kind of stuff. That stuff is much more interesting than this challenging thing that I've got to do. So it's actually sometimes really good to have a period of time with nothing to give your body time to get to a baseline, which will make the thing you have to do more exciting than the nothing. And that's a really good way to get into flow state, is to make everything else seem like undesirable versus the thing that you have to do. Yeah. And then the last one is just about time. I mentioned that earlier on, actually, about actually, because I mentioned it before, I won't necessarily go over it again the way I did, but did you hear me when I said about time versus energy? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. One thing that I haven't touched on yet is permission. And this, in a word, may not mean anything to you, but it is like huge in all of this stuff. Giving yourself permission to do what you need to do, whether it be rest, whether it be not doing this task and doing it later, or calling them and saying, actually, can we do it next week? Because it doesn't seem that urgent. So for example, urgent or important might be a good framework for you to use when you're making decisions, like the Eisenhower matrix, because I really find that useful. It's like, if this isn't urgent, then I don't need to do it right now. So I can prioritize the things that are urgent in the moment, which can give me more space. Because what you don't want to do is spend all your time doing the stuff that isn't actually important, but it's someone else's urgency, which means that you don't have time to do the thing that's actually important for you. So be careful of that. Like, you have to give yourself permission to prioritize your own urgency, your own priority list. Yeah. So I think I've gotten through most of those. What I'm going to do is, we have a little bit of time left. So what I would love is to, first of all, has everyone eaten? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Maybe what we can... Okay, cool. So we'll go around and then we'll do desserts. What I would like to hear is maybe one thing you're taking away from today and one thing you're going to do this week. Yeah? One thing you've taken away from today and one thing you're going to do this week. You started this side last time, didn't you? Do you need a minute?
Well, I have a whole list of things that I take away, so I'm just trying to prioritize. Oh. If I have to choose one, because I have really a list, I've just been taking notes this whole time. Yeah. But if I have to choose one, I think the visual idea of remaining balanced while the ship keeps moving is extremely helpful. Because, I think we all talk about balance, but what, what does it really mean? And, as you said, life is never going to be a seesaw. That's impossible. So the visual of remaining still and calm while the ship kind of moves around you is really helpful. And what I'm going to do this week, well, I think a really simple solution to a lot of the trouble that I'm having is just planning more efficiently. So I think if I spend more time on planning, I'll spend less time in the moment on not knowing what to do. So.
Got you. Yes. Yeah.
So I think at my best moment, I would spend a Sunday evening. I would take at least an hour on a Sunday evening and just plan out the whole week and have a good idea of what I needed to do every day. I definitely have slipped from that. So. I think, talking about flow state reminded me about this thing that I'm very familiar with, And I think, the most realistic way of achieving that is just to plan.
And the thing about planning as well is that because it takes energy to plan. So if you wake up in the morning or you have to plan before you get started, it can take spoons away before the day even starts. So, which is why sometimes it's good to plan as a low energy task at the end of the day for the next day, or the next week, or whatever it is. Because then you don't have to think. So for example, with me, I used to have the same lunch every day, because that was one less decision to make. But I'd plan it, so prep it and all that kind of stuff, which meant that when I woke up, that was one less thing I had to think about in terms of the rocks that were in my bag.
well, it's not that Mark Zuckerberg is any kind of inspiration, but he wears the same thing every day for that reason. Like his whole cupboard is just the same shirt and the same trousers because it's one less decision.
That's it. Steve Jobs had the same thing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two things that I think that I will carry forward are, I love your mom's advice.
I love her
the
mom.
decision that gives you peace.
Mm.
And I think that it's simple, but I think the simple advice is usually the best advice. When you think about your future, what decision makes you feel happy?
Mhm.
That's pretty solid advice. So I'm definitely gonna try to adopt that. This is definitely a line that you drop. The best way to reach perfection is to move. It's counterintuitive, but I definitely think that just in my own life and ways that I can hopefully like help the team, it's just like that's something that's gonna go on the wall at the office for sure. And hopefully somebody internalizes it. A little like soft messaging.
Exactly.
Hopefully
Persuasion.
somebody reads it. I think that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try that thing you just said, be bored for a little bit, and then see if that helps me be more productive. Yeah, just like something that you said that like I think was the most, I don't even know what it is, just deep or difficult, that you mentioned that people don't see my humanity as a real thing. That's something that wasn't necessarily a part of the, I don't know, like a lesson, but just something that definitely affects me that I'll carry or, you know, think about.
100%.
Yeah.
Dope.
Thank you. What was the CIC thing? Control?
Oh, circle of control, circle of influence, circle of concern.
Yes, I need to start letting go of the stuff that is not within my control. Like the bit where you were like, where you asked us what's in your control. I was like, I should know the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like your actions, and that's it. Because I think there might be something about entrepreneurs and founders and neurodiversity, because I feel like it's just, there's something that happens where your brain is just, my brain is always on and it's always running 100 million miles a minute. And I think thinking less, almost, like taking things out, taking away things that I'm worrying about that I have very little control over, and just sort of decluttering somehow. I think that's something that you're always very good at, actually. You're very good at taking quite complicated things and sort of stripping it back. I need to work on that, I think.
If I can just add to that. I do that because I need things to be mad simple for me to understand. We tend to complicate things a lot, which make them really difficult to conquer. Because if we think about it, if we were to do a column exercise with the control, influence, and concern, it's very likely that before we do this, there are things that are occupying our mind as if it's in our control, which is actually just in our concern. But it's taken up all of our brain space. And for me, I needed something to be able to break that down so I can identify when a thought comes into my mind, is this in my control, influence, or concern? If it's in my concern, I validate it completely, but it doesn't take precedence over what's in my control. Because if I spend all my time on what's in my concern and not in what's in my control, then I lose control completely. So that's just what I wanted to add. Yeah.
Firstly, I just want to say thank you for all your perspectives. Really had a lot, got me thinking a lot.
You're welcome.
Really, really good. But yeah, in regards to some of the things that I will be taking away, definitely the energy management versus the time management. when you said that, I was like, wow, I never really thought about it like that. But I think just looking at myself and just understanding, you know, when I do dip and just my body and things like that can just help me plan effectively. And I like the whole journaling around that and just maximizing myself based on energy management rather than time management. Just because with the time management aspect of things can change all the time, and you know, then the expectation may crop up that way. That's one aspect, and then also making decisions, just the concept of, you know, is it the right thing? But it's like, you know, looking back at your past and reflecting on, you know, when did you know you made the right decision? And you know, you made a good point that actually when you follow it through, it's all right at the end of the day. And then maybe if it's not so right, you kind of, I mean, I'm quite optimistic in general, so if it doesn't, you know, it's not where I want it to be, I use it as a learning curve, and it's actually fine anyway. It's always a positive, if you know what I mean. And it's then I think wanting to control everything, but you don't need to control everything, just go with it. And I think it just falls into the infinite game theory, just enjoying the journey, enjoying the walk. You know, when you get to that stage, when you get to that peak, might not be exactly what you want anyway. There's always going to be something you want to add, so just enjoy the journey instead. And I think that's just a nicer way to think about life. And then in regards to what I would like to bring into the next week is definitely the flow state. I have been in flow state when he was describing it, definitely with certain tasks and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could be in that all the time, you know. I get distracted very easily. I want to actually practice just keeping my phone outside of the room and just being present and then going into the task. Like you mentioned, I think that's something that will help me go forward. So
let me add just a tiny little thing as well, because a caveat on the energy management. Not everything that gives you management energy might be right for the moment, and not everything that takes energy might be wrong for the moment. The reason why I say that is you might have a goal and there might be a task that is actually just very draining because it's so important. So one of the things I don't like about the social media clips I sometimes see is they sensationalize really important concepts but miss the point. So with it's important with the energy management to also know where you're going, so that you know, okay, this bit is challenging, this bit is taking, you know, energy and stuff like that, but it's also necessary. So how can I do it in a way that gives me energy? Like, we didn't have time for that today, but it's just something to think about, because sometimes, so for example, all right, I need to meet people because I need to network for my business. I'm an introvert, so it takes a lot of energy to do that, right? Maybe it's a thing where you don't meet people one-to-many. It might be that you meet them one-to-one, right? In a way that works for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I realized that when I was doing my work at my laptop in my yard versus my laptop at Hotel Barmoy in Sierra Leone, it felt completely different, but I was doing the same work. But it was still hard work. It's also not just the energy in terms of what by itself gives me energy, but how can I do it in a way that gives me energy as well.
Okay, so I've got two things. I think first thing is I wrote this down to say rethinking my definition of internal success. I think that's one to think about. That's like an action to take care of. And then the other one is the fisherman story that you mentioned as well. I think that's quite interesting, and I think that helped me realize that actually it's important to enjoy the journey. It's not always like the destination of making like 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month, whatever it needs to be, but thinking, okay, that journey of like, in fact, there's one thing I told my friend about a couple of years back, and it was around becoming a millionaire isn't necessarily the exciting bit. It's the character I have to become on the way to become it. And I think that is what I need to kind of hone down on. I think actually the journey is the exciting part, not necessarily getting to the destination. So, like, I will continue to do one task a day. Even if I do one task a day, just be like, all right, I've done something, and like you said, like celebrate it and be like, right, like I've done that one task, like make that a big party, and then be like, all right, tomorrow I'll do the same thing again. But at least those small steps continuously over a period of time, that's the thing that is the journey. So, yeah, some things.
Man, you're just opening up bad stuff for me to talk about today, you know. That thing there that you just mentioned, I don't know if you clocked it, but alright, so basically, who I need to be to climb the mountain, right? So you can be that person now. Ultimately, if you zoom to 20 whatever year is, and you look at what is that person doing on a daily basis, on a day-to-day, time by time, you could probably do that right now. They're probably going to be answering their emails at a certain time of day. They're going to be spending time with their friends and family a certain time of day. They're going to be on the phone with certain people certain times of day. All that kind of stuff is stuff that's doable now. But, and this is something which we won't have time for today, but what I plan to do is like a series of these, by the way. So all the stuff that we were doing today and stuff we didn't get to do, we'll deep dive on sessions like this, because your state and your standards are two things that can really make a difference on who you are today, which will make a difference on who you will become as well. The reason why people win the lottery and then they're broke again, or they lose weight and they gain it again, or all this kind of stuff is because they're not the person that they're aiming to be. They're looking just at the goal. So it's like, okay, if I make this money, cool, but what happens once I made it? Like, all of a sudden there's a switch that turns off. If it's about who I become, then it's like, okay, I want to be a person who makes healthy decisions on a day-to-day basis. I want to be the kind of person who impacts people en masse in a positive way. I want to be the kind of person who is happy with myself when I go to sleep at night, right? Those kind of things. I want to be the kind of person who does what I say I'll do, right? Those kind of things. If I am that person today, then actually you've already won it, and you will become that person. It's just that we often think to ourselves, I need to make that £1 million by a specific date, and two things happen. Either you miss the date and kick yourself, even though you actually made quite a lot of money, but you just didn't make the million. Because I heard this story where someone had a similar kind of thing. It's like million was his goal, made 750,000 and felt bad about it. And I was like, bro, you can barely afford your rent at the beginning of this journey and you're worried about this now. But because they were so focused on the goal, they didn't feel like they achieved anything when they fell slightly short of it, right? So being who you are in terms of your standards is really important. And that boils down to your habits and stuff on a day-to-day basis. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm grabbing the mic.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Something quickly to add to that is something I learned from Caroline is talking about success metrics and the idea of how far is enough or what success looks like. Outside of having a to-do list, you can also have a done list, which is very helpful. You can write a list of things that you've completed today, this week, this month, this quarter, however you want to look at it, to help motivate yourself and remind yourself of the things that you've done along the way to the lofty goal, the sky-high thing that you're working towards. That will help ground you and also motivate you in a lot of ways to keep you going. So that's like my little thing I want to add on to that.
Can I add on a little something to that?
Yeah,
I was going to add to it. Everyone can add to it. Alright, I'm going to add it real quick and then we add and then add.
Alright.
One thing I was going to add to it, because my mum taught me that.
Yeah.
The to-done list, right? The thing about a to-do list is we can get dopamine just from writing down the list. And we can feel like physiologically, we can feel like we've achieved something by doing so, which means that we kind of lose the motivation because there's always something inside of us that tells us we've done it. The good thing about the done list is that we get the dopamine because we've actually done it as opposed to wanted to do it. And so you can actually bank that in a way that becomes healthy. And it's just a big shift I learned from my mom, because she was like, it started off with her saying that she would wake up and instead of a to-do list, she'll start with her done list and just write a whole stuff that she's done and then cross it off.
Yeah.
and I laughed because I thought that was gangster, but then later on I found the science behind it. I was like, oh snap, that's actually genius. But yeah. And then
I think I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, no, I think I was going to basically validate your point. I think it's important to. I think a done list is I think it's revolutionary. I think I'm going to do it tonight because we tend to forget.
Yeah.
Like you tend to forget the milestones. You've done like so much up to that point. It's like when you're at that point, like you forget about everything that happened. So I think I'm going to do that tonight. That's what I'm going to say.
I feel like it's something our brains do, isn't it? Like you focus on the negative bits.
Oh, I'll add to that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we do that I find really useful, maybe this goes against your mom, but I definitely.
Oh, you're careful.
Yeah.
How very dare you?
I definitely. So we use what is called a moon chart, and so we draw at the start of the week. We draw full circles of the tasks that we want to do that week.
I like it.
And then at the end of every day, we kind of color in as much as we've done of that task. And so then we like get the dopamine hit and we can like follow it go during the day. And so then like we celebrate when we get like a little quarter of it done or a half of it done. So you feel progress throughout the day, throughout the week.
Nice.
And then we don't, like there's some stuff that I really don't like to use tech for, and I like to do all that stuff handwritten. So we have an A4 paper chart. And we just go and we go and we go, and it adds to like the sense of accomplishment as you go. And then once like that, you get through a whole roll of paper, and like we never like go through and look at the tasks again. But when you get through it, there's just like the sense of like, just like the mini progress that you're making towards your bigger goals. But I really feel a difference when you can just like check off like a quarter of a task, even though it's just like the weekly task, but I did a quarter of it, and I don't know, it really helps me just like. I love my moon chart.
Hey, that's not against mom at all. I think that's like an extra add-on. That was wicked. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
We're here to speak, do it.
Yeah. One thing to add as well is I think we do it sometimes. So I do it anyway. So I do one. I write down one task I need to do for the day. Just one. Because also I go into a headspace where I was like a massive fat to-do list. I get not even half of it done. And I'm like, oh. Do that tomorrow, like you go into the day kind of negative. Whereas if I say I need to do one thing, like send just one email to this one client, just send that email. At the end of it, I'm like, yo, I feel happy about that because I've done that.
Yeah.
And the next day, I'll do one thing, and throughout the week, it just adds up. So I think shifting like the to-do list, just saying one thing I gotta do today, I think it works. I think it works.
Is this one thing?
Do you want some science for that?
Yeah, go on.
I swear this will be the last one, but again, this is fresh off the press for me because I came across this recently. Yeah, definitely. All things must go. So that part. Have you read Eat the Frog?
No.
Eat that frog, baby.
Eat the frog. Yeah. So
I was brought up like 8 times today.
You know, I'm telling you, right?
I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get to the day without talking about it.
Listen, every day, bro. Every day, I'm giving you like a library books to read. So Eat the Frog is by Brian Tracy, right? And he talks about doing the biggest, most challenging task at the beginning of the day. And the idea is that you eat the frog first, and then all the other tasks, because you've done that, are easier to do. But and I read that thinking, oh, it's really good, you know, it actually does help, but I never really understood why until recently. And it actually links to what we were saying about flow state earlier on. And it actually combines a lot of the concepts that we've spoken about. If you do the biggest task, if you have one task to do in a day, and it's like the one task that will shift thing specifically. So it's like, the reason why I say that last little bit is you could eat the frog, but it's a frog that is irrelevant, right? So you want it to be a task that actually matters, right? So a task that you've been putting off, a task that effectively by doing it will release energy to do other stuff, which is good because a task has a goal built in. It has to be something you can complete.
Yeah.
And so it's good if you can do something where it's like either I can complete it now or I can reach some kind of milestone within this time, right? And the idea is by doing that, you reach flow state because you're clear about what the end goal is, right? And so in that time, let's say for example, your first 2 hours a day is going to be a video or an email or whatever it is, right? You lock in to do that email, you complete it, and then you get the hit of dopamine, which is like some more spoons for the rest of the day, right? So, and I didn't know that when I read it, but it's like now I'm learning about flow state, dopamine, all these kind of things, and realizing how connected they all are. It is actually good to get your hardest thing out the way, because what usually happens is, especially when we're talking about energy management that I didn't touch on before, is part of the reason why some of the things, simple things, are difficult to do is because there's something that is actually difficult to do that we're putting off.
Yeah.
And because it's taken up so much of our brain space, we can't even do the simplest of things because we're like, oh my gosh, that thing, I still haven't got around to it, but I'll do it later. But really, I can't concentrate on this because I know that still needs to be done. So you put that at the front of the day, knock it out of the park. Because how many of us know that like usually the stress is before we do the thing. While we do it, we get locked in, and then afterwards we feel relief. So the stress is only before we do it, right?
Yeah, the anxiety always makes it feel bigger than it is.
100%. It makes it feel huge, insurmountable until we start. And as they say, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And so we do that, and then it releases our energy for the rest. So I just wanted to end with that. Thank you all for today. I've had loads of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been dope. It's been dope. So we have actually gone over time by like 12 minutes. So I'm really sorry about that. But we do have some dessert for you here. I know you've gone over like a whole hour versus what you were gonna do. Feel free to do all that. I will have a QR code on screen in a second for feedback, but I'll probably email it to you as well. Which would be amazing, just to see how you thought of it. And then notes and stuff I will write up and then send them to you as well. But then what I'm likely to do is have a series over the next months, years, whatever it is, where I can tackle some of these deeper. So today was like skimming over a lot of stuff at the top, but like there will absolutely be one on perfectionism, there will absolutely be one on balance, there will absolutely be one on flow state that we absolutely, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Self image, which was the level even before you get to the expectations. Who do I see myself as, and versus who do I see myself becoming? All that kind of stuff, because all of that will have an impact on how you feel when we do some of the basic stuff. So yeah, wonderful. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
bro.
so much.
Thank you. No doubt. No doubt. Pew, 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 pew. What I've done.
Thank you very much.
No doubt, man.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome, bro.
I think I needed that.
Yeah?
Yay.
I know the feeling, bro.
Verbatim. I think
Listen.
it's so weird because I woke up.